Your typical hack here. Today we're going to do some basic masonry work on this decorative stone wall. I was quoted up to $1,500 for someone to come out here and patch this up. So we're going to patch it up on our own and see how much it really costs. Some of the tools you need for this job are a bucket, a couple smaller buckets, your typical trowel over there, and your little trowel, or your tuck pointer, whatever you call it. Dirty old paintbrush, one that's never been washed. It's going to be beautiful because it's going to be nice and stiff. And obviously the pre-mixed mortar itself.
You're also going to need some safety glasses, tape measure, and some cardboard.
First thing I'm going to do is just measure the gaps of the top stones, just so we can keep it consistent when we put them all back on. 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch.
Then we're going to pull off these top layer of stones.
What I'm going to do now is just go along here, sweep off all the loose stuff.
Now that we have that loose stuff all swept off, we can see what's left of the mortar, which isn't much, but it's obviously not level. So we're going to have to go ahead and remove that. To remove the old mortar, just grab a hammer or a rubber mallet and chip away at it accordingly. I like to use the rubber mallet because with the steel hammer, you run the risk of cracking the bricks, especially if they're old or made of lime. And to be honest, this mortar was super soft. Like, take a look at this. I could literally carve through it using a rubber mallet. And obviously, if you want to use a steel hammer, just remember, old bricks can crack easy. And once that mortar is chipped off, we'll give her a final sweep.
We gave it the final sweep down here. Ready to mix up some mortar.
Have our bag of pre-mixed mortar ready to go here. This means all we got to do is add some water.
Mixing up this mortar is a lot like mixing up a pancake mix. All you gotta do is add water. What happens if it's too gooey or runny? Just add some more of this, right? Oh, what happens if it's too dry and powdery? Well, add some more water, right? Pretty straightforward.
It's tough to nail down the perfect water to mortar ratio. If you ask most professionals, they're just going to tell you their preference. They'll say things like, oh, I like mine more gooey or sticky, or oh, I like mine less gooey and less sticky. As a first timer, a good reference is to see if the mortar actually sticks to the trowel. As you can see here, the mortar isn't sticking to the trowel, it's just dripping off into the bucket. This means there's too much water to mix, and we should throw in some more of that mortar, that pre-mix. You can actually take your trowel, stick it in the bucket or whatever you're working with, pull it up and it stays on the trowel like so. That's a good starting point. Good enough. Now that the mortar's mixed,
Plan of attack here is to start at the end of the house and work our way down. So, I don't know if you noticed this, I kind of got set up here already, my bad. But before I did that, if you notice there's a bit of a color difference here, what I did is I basically kind of primed the area up a little bit. There's always a lot of dust when doing this kind of work. So what I like to do is just grab that dirty old paintbrush, the one that was stiff and never washed before, and prime that surface. Basically gets rid of some of the dust and really does help the mortar or concrete or whatever you're working with here to adhere a little bit better. So we're just gonna prime this up.
lay the mortar down,
and then place these stones on top.
With everything primed up, the first thing I did was slop down a bunch of mortar, like so. After I slopped down the mortar, I went ahead and leveled it out. I left it about an inch thick or so, which should be good enough for stones of this size. Once the mortar was leveled out, I grabbed that top stone, kept that 3/4 inch gap from the previous, and then simply rocked it back and forth until it leveled out. Always a good idea to throw a level on top to make sure it's level and straight. And once that first top stone was down, I pretty much repeated the process of priming or wetting things down, then slopped down a bunch of mortar, dealing with those end pieces first. I threw about 3/4 inch of mortar on the ends just to maintain that gap. Then slop down some more mortar. I decided to fill these voids up, didn't think it would hurt. Level it out, Give yourself about an inch thick. And then same deal. Put down another top piece. Rock it back and forth till she's level. And repeat.
Top's back on. We kept the 3/4 inch gap as it was before. It's about as level as it was before, which is good, right? It's not worse. And next step here, we're just going to go in these gaps and fill them. We're going to use the little trowel for that little tuck point one, and that's it.
Now that we got the top stones secured and dealt with, let's deal with these bricks on the side. So we're going to finish up our tuck pointing here, which basically means we're going to scrape out this devastated mortar and replace it with fresh good stuff, mostly cosmetics here. So give her a good scrape down like so.
Rinse it out or prime it once again. Helps that mortar bond a little better. Get rid of that dust.
Now that the bricks are prepped, all we got to do is take some mortar and a backside of this trowel and use your tuck pointer to squeeze it in between these gaps. Not too much to it. But as you can see, this is why it's important to have that mortar stick to the trowel. And you mix it up there. Don't worry about getting it on the sides for now, because when it dries up a little bit, we can just scrape it off. You can also wash it off a bit too. We'll show you that in a minute. When the mortar hardens a bit, we can grab our trowel, scrape it off. Unless you're a dirty hack like me, it's going to be a lot to scrape off. Obviously, don't wait too long because this stuff will harden like concrete. And also go over our tuck pointing as well. Get in those grooves there. Pretty them up a little more. There we go. That's prettier. How long to wait? It's tough to say. Depends on humidity, temperature, blah, blah, blah. I think I let this sit for about 20, 15 minutes. So, and that's it. And if it still looks terrible after a scraping and a final tuck pointing, you can always take our wet paintbrush here and just give it the final wash down. Get rid of anything you don't want. And that's pretty much it here. Yep, good enough.
And done. We managed to get those stones on top secured. Looking pretty good. About as level as they were anyways. Again, it's not professional, but it was better than before. Even managed to get the mortar that was falling out in between the bricks here. That's all patched up. The color's a little bit off, but the fact is, this is new mortar, and this in here's got a lot of mold to it, so that'll fade and blend in time. And honestly, it's as long as it's somewhat better than before, that's a major win, right? So again, not a professional here. I'm hoping that you seeing something like this will give you the courage to tackle a project and save yourself some money, because a lot of this stuff is not that bad. And hey, again, if it's not structural, if you're not building like a British townhouse, it doesn't really matter, right? As long as it looks prettier. Anyways, until next time, we'll see you around, eh?
So, what's a job like this cost me? Well, as you can see here, a bag of the ready mix mortar sets you back about 12 bucks. 5.5-inch trowel sets you back another 12 bucks or so. Your tuck pointer, it's gonna cost you about $11. Ooh. And that's pretty much it. Total those things up, the 2 trowels and the mortar, put tax on it, you're under 40 bucks. So the highest quote I got was 1,500 bucks. 40 bucks worth of tools and stuff we needed, and about an afternoon, about 4 hours. So what do you folks think? Would you try this out? Think it was worth it? Think I wasted my time? Let me know what you think. I appreciate that. Anyways, thanks for watching.